deep in the wild woods of Maine, where even compasses go crazy, there is a place that is not told to tourists or written about in guidebooks. Old hunters call it the dead zone. The maps don't work there, the GPS disappears, and the sounds are muffled as if the forest itself doesn't want anyone to know what's going on inside. There stands the abandoned village of Wong, once an ordinary settlement. Today it is a black spot on the history of Maine, about which it is better not to mention. Wong was built in the middle of the 19th century by immigrants from the east. They were looking for a new land, quiet, fertile, away from cities. At first life was peaceful. People cut down the forest, hunted, cultivated the fields. The village grew, and in the middle of it, they built a small wooden church with a bell that could be heard several miles away. It received the name Wong from the surname of the family of Ezra Wong, a local healer, hunter and, as they say, black doctor. He was a silent person, but everyone went to him for help when medicine was ineffective. His house stood out of the way, closer to the marshes, and every night a strange light was visible from there, as if from a fire that never goes out. The first strange events began in 1924. People began to hear someone calling their names in the forest. At first it seemed like a joke or tiredness after work, but then several people disappeared. They searched for weeks, but found only traces of bare feet that led straight to the swamp and disappeared in the swamp. Ezra Wong said at the time, "They have returned to the earth, as we all once did." In 1925, Wong experienced the worst winter in the state's history. The frost broke through the walls, the snow lay up to the chest, livestock died. People began to suffer from a strange illness. Their faces turned pale, their eyes darkened. Their voices became hoarse, as if they were speaking through someone else's mouth. No one knew what it was until the press disappeared. His church was empty. Only on the wall someone wrote in blood the words, "He is awake." Ezra then said he knew a way to escape. He brought from the forest an old book with a leather cover, which, according to him, he unearthed under an oak tree where the earth breathes. He read it at night, and people saw a green light burning in his windows. Zam heard voices whispering from the darkness. On the 5th night, his yard caught fire, and when the flame went out, the fire did not leave a single wound on the ground, as if it burned only in another world. The next morning, the whole village was gone. Literally. A traveller who accidentally drove there a few weeks later said that he saw houses with open doors, dishes on tables, children's beds, but there was not a single living sound. Only the silence was broken by the bell, a bell that rang by itself, even though the tower had been empty for a long time. 100 years later, in the fall of 2025, 3 friends, Jason, Matt and Carla, decided to walk deeper into the Maine woods. They were mushroom pickers, nature lovers, and heard from the locals that somewhere there are no roads, huge white mushrooms grow. They took a map on which the old man marked a place with a pencil and said, "If you see a rusty plate with the inscription Wong, turn around. I'm not kidding." They laughed, deciding that it was just a horror story. In the evening, they wrote to their friends that they had reached the old road. Then silence. Rescuers found their camp 2 days later. Everything was scattered. The backpacks were torn. The tent was torn from the inside. There are dozens of footprints around the campfire. Small, barefoot, crooked, with strangely long toes. They were circling the place as if they were waiting for something. One of the rescuers shot a short video. A forest, a thick fog, and somewhere in the depths, a shadow moving slowly between the trees, like a person, but too tall and thin. Those who went there after that said that time behaved strangely in the village. The clocks stop, the phones don't work. And in the mirrors, you don't see your own reflection, but the faces of those who once lived in Wong. In one house, they found an old photograph of a group of people near a church. Everyone stood straight, looking at the camera, but everyone's eyes were black as holes. There is an old church in the center of the village. Its roof collapsed, but the bell was intact. They say that if you touch it, you will not hear a sound, but a whisper. And if you listen, he repeats your name. Inside is darkness. There are old inscriptions on the walls, strange symbols that look like a combination of Latin and Old Norse. On the altar lies the same book. Whoever tried to open it said that the pages were still warm, as if someone had touched them recently. There is a hatch under the floor of the church. One hunter said that he once dared to go down there. He saw a narrow corridor, walls of black stone, and something moving in the darkness. He ran away, but later admitted that he still hears that breath in his ears when he falls asleep. Historians researching old county records found an excerpt from Ezra Wong's own diary. He wrote, "The spirits have answered. They have given me power, but they demand payment. They want voices, not blood, just voices to speak to those who are still alive." It is said that the ceremony he performed opened the door between the worlds. But instead of the good spirits, something else came. Old nameless creatures that do not tolerate the sun. By the time he tried to stop the process, it was too late. What came didn't want to go. Since then, a rift has opened in Wonga every 100 years. The earth around begins to breathe, as if someone is moving under it. In those nights, you can hear the bell, long, dull, like a heartbeat. And those who approach the village at this moment never return. Local residents say that on dark nights, flickering lights can be seen above the forest. They move like someone carrying a lantern through the trees. Sometimes a child's cry is heard, sometimes laughter, but no one sees the face. They say that the forest itself makes the way to Wong difficult. Paths change, trees grow faster, roads turn away from where you are going. And when you realize that you are lost, you already hear the first bell. No one knows for sure what happened that night in 1925. But the old records say, "Those who chanted the prayers with Ezra now chant them always. They cannot shut up until someone repeats their words." Wong is said to be more than just a cursed place. It is a seal that holds something underground, and everyone who enters there feeds it with their presence. Therefore, the village lives. It breathes, whispers, calls, waits. And if you ever get lost in the deep woods of Maine and see an old sign, the word Wong covered in rust, don't read it out loud, because then you will become a part of that history. And when you hear the bell at night, know that it's not the wind, it's the village that remembered your name.